I am Kientpoos. You may know me by another name, Captain Jack. The white soldiers gave me that name. They said it was easier to remember. Maybe it sounded dashing, like I was some outlaw from their stories. But I was not a villain. I was a son, a brother, a leader. And I fought, not for glory, but to stay free. I was born around 1837, near Tule Lake, in the borderlands where the lands of Oregon and California blur together. That was Modoc country, cratered by lava beds and carved by bitter wind. It was not an easy land, but it was ours. My people knew every twist of the caves, every hiding place among the sharp stones. We hunted deer. We fished the clear rivers. We held dances by firelight that echoed with the songs of our ancestors. But that life, it didn't last. The white settlers came like a slow-moving storm. First one wagon, then dozens. Then soldiers. Then guns. Then papers, always papers. They spoke of treaties. Promises. But the words on those pages were poison. In 1864, they forced us onto the Klamath Reservation, miles from our homeland. They said it would be shared with the Klamath and the Yahuskin. They said we'd be safe. We were not. The Klamath hated us. Food was scarce. Disease spread. The reservation was a slow death. I watched my people waste away, body and spirit. So in 1870, I led a group of Modoc, my band, off the reservation. Back home. Back to the lava beds. They called us renegades. They called us rebels. But all we wanted was to live where our ancestors lay buried. For 2 years, we lived in peace, near Lost River. We traded. We hunted. But peace with white men has always had a short shelf life. In 1872, the U.S. Army came for us. They said we had to return to the reservation. We refused. They fired the first shot. They attacked us near Lost River. We fled into the lava beds, those sacred, jagged lands my people knew better than any map. And there, we made our stand. They call it the Modoc War. But it was no war. It was survival. I had barely 50 warriors, many just boys. The U.S. sent hundreds of soldiers, cannons, and scouts. But the lava beds were our ally. We struck from the shadows. We vanished like ghosts. At Stronghold, we held off wave after wave. For months. They called it a miracle. They called us demons. But hunger is stronger than courage. The women and children began to starve. Some wanted surrender. Others, like Shonchin John, wanted blood. There was a council. They said the only way to end this was to kill the generals or bring fear to their leaders. I didn't want that. I wanted peace. But I was their chief. And when you are chief, even silence is a decision. So on April 11, 1873, I walked to a peace meeting with General Kenby and Reverend Thomas. I tried one last time to plead for a homeland. But Kenby said we must return to the reservation or face destruction. And then, one of my men fired. Kenby fell. It was the only time a U.S. general was killed in an Indian war. They never forgave that. From that moment on, we were hunted without mercy. Reinforcements came. Our stronghold was shelled. We scattered. I was betrayed, captured by my own people who hoped to save themselves. They put me in shackles. They called me a murderer. A savage. They put me on trial in a white man's court under white man's law. I stood there, silent, as they argued whether my life was worth keeping. They already knew the answer. On October 3, 1873, they hanged me, Captain Jack, on a cold morning at Fort Klamath. I did not beg. I did not cry. They say I died with dignity. What else could I do? They buried my body somewhere unknown. My head, they sent to a museum. That was their justice. But I ask you, what would you have done? Would you have led your people back to the land of your ancestors? Would you have resisted a slow death on someone else's reservation? Would you have fought for your family, your children, your spirit? I was no saint. But I was no monster either. I was Modoc. And I would do it all again.